Embrace the pain like I'm Nagato. Got no father like I'm Naruto. Keep the blade on me, Ichigo. Who really wanna go toe for toe? GTR from Tokyo. Diamonds whipping up on the stove. Lucky man like a 4-leaf clove. Diamonds wanna go with the
Welcome back to my channel, guys. This is Nagato's Revenge, and for today's tutorial I'm basically going to be showcasing on how to install any Game Boy Advance and also how to play them on your modded PlayStation 4. With that being said, if you guys did like this video, make sure to leave a like and a comment down below if you guys have any questions, and make sure to subscribe to my channel because I have a ton of PlayStation 4 tutorials on how to install emulators and just PS4 games, and I have a bunch of tutorials for the PS3 and Vita and also for the PlayStation Classic as of right now. So I really would appreciate y'all guys go ahead and show some love in the comment section below. But with that being stated, let's go ahead and get started into the actual tutorial. So first things first, of course, you need a modded PlayStation 4. In this case, I'm using my 5.05 PS4. For firmwares to do this is you need to be either on 1.76, 4.05, 4.55, or 5.05. Also, for this process, you need a USB flash drive formatted to either exFAT or FAT32. I do recommend exFAT. I'm using my 500GB Seagate HDD drive for this process as well. And also what you need for this process, let me go ahead and delete this file right here so I could start from the beginning. Go ahead on your desktop as well, go ahead and make 2 dummy folders, or basically just create 2 new folders and just name them as disk ISO dump and PKG dump, and they could just be blank folders as right now. And basically what's going to happen is you have your RetroArch PKG file right here, which you're going to download from the description below, and any of the files I stated in this video and from this tutorial will be in the video description below, just like all my other videos except a few of them, and I'll explain on that a little bit more. But what's going to happen is essentially we're going to have to basically extract this PKG file, which is this is the reason why we created this blank one, and also there's a ISO file in here that we also need to dump, and we're going to basically dump all our ISO contents, because if we just install this to our PS4 right now, there are no games on it, and essentially what we have to do is manually add the games into the ISO file and then repackage it as a PKG, which is what we're going to be doing for this process. So once you have your 2 blank folders, and also you have your RetroArch PKG, which will be in the download description below, of course you need your Game Boy Advance games, which I have 1,000 of them. You can just go ahead and find them online. I'm not going to link them in the description below. And also for your fake package generator tools, make sure you have the 3.38 version. I'm not going to link these tools as well. You could go ahead and Google them. Just type in fake PKG generator 3.38. Download, you'll find them. But I will link the CD Gen PS2 version 3.0 files as well. I'll make sure it's the version 3.0 because I think the 2.0 version has some problems encrypting the ISO itself. And also you'll need the Gen GP4 file as well, which should be in fake package tools. I just put it in a separate folder just to make it a little bit easier for the video to explain. But assuming that you guys have all the proper files and you made the 2 base files, what we need to go to is basically our fake package tools, and make sure that your fake package tools has this orbis.pub-check.exe, and then we're going to go ahead and click on that for this part of the tutorial. May take a little second to boot up here, or I think I already have it open actually. Accidentally clicked on something else. Let me go ahead and just click it on it again. Oh, there we go. So let me X out one. What this basically does is checks for any package files, and basically will list the information and also the content ID and basically what's in the actual package file itself. So the way how to do that is go to add image, scroll to your desktop or wherever you have your PKG located. In this case, this is where the RetroArch mGBA PS2 package file is. Go ahead and hit open, and then as you see here, you'll see basically your content ID, the title ID, the version app, and such and such. What we need to do now, this is kind of our early step, but I decided to do this, you know, quite early in the video, and I'll help later on. Go ahead where it says title ID, go ahead and right click, copy it over, and then with Notepad or whatever, or Notepad++, just go ahead and paste this title ID in, because basically we need this title ID to repackage our file later on. So I'm just going to minimize that. But now what we need to do is go ahead and extract our files and then type in a passcode. For our passcode, it's 32 zeros. So all you would have to do is just hold down like 0 until you basically can't anymore, since you could only go up to 32 characters. And once you typed in your 32 zeros, go ahead and hit extract. And now make sure that for the section where it says files to be extracted, save, select all files and directories, make sure this is ticked and all of them are ticked right now, because we're going to need each file, since we're going to have to repackage every file as well. So what we're going to do now for our output directory, that's explaining where we're going to basically put this at, is our desktop. So we're going to find it real quick. So where it says pkg dump right here, or wherever your base folder is at, go ahead and just hit OK and then hit start. And now what it should do is basically says extracting files, and it should give you 100%. And if you do have an error, probably you typed in the passcode wrong, which is still 32 zeros. But assuming you did that process right, what we're going to go to is our pkg dump file. And now you should basically see two files right here, image0 and then sc0. So where it says image0 at, go ahead and hit Control V. Let me go ahead and move my keyboard a little bit closer to me. And then just go ahead and copy and paste the content ID right here. And then where it says sc0, what we need to type is sce underscore, if I can type today, sys, like that, and then go ahead and hit enter. So SEE underscore sys, and just drag it into this folder. So at least everything is in one folder now. Now what we need to do is go into our CUSB 0007 folder, aka mGBA RetroArch, go into image right here, and then with WinRar or ISOBuster, I do recommend using WinRar since it will detect ISO files. All you would have to do is just go ahead and right click and then hit open with WinRar if you have it installed, and basically you should see all of your contents. And this is where we're going to be basically putting our game in a second, or basically all of our games here. So what we're going to do is go ahead and drag and drop disk ISO dump right here, and then we can minimize that. So basically we just dumped our ISO content, and this is where all of our games are going to go at. So right here it has Game Boy, and also I guess Game Boy Color games you could also put in this directory as well. What we're going to do now is just go ahead and right click, make a new folder. Let me go here, and we're just gonna call it GBA, just to make it simple. And then from here, what we're going to do now is go ahead and take this little folder right here and all of our Game Boy Advance games, and we're just going to go ahead and copy it over into this little directory. So it may take a little while for me as shown here, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and once that part is done, I'll explain a little bit more on how to do this process. So I'll meet you guys back once this process is done. Alright guys, so as shown here right now, basically all of my Game Boy Advance games has successfully copied over to our disk ISO dump folder right here. So if I go back out of it real quick, you should see basically my GBA games are all there. Now what we need to do is go ahead and exit this out, and then we need to go open our CD-Gen PlayStation 2 version 3.0 folder. Make sure it's the version 3.0. Go ahead and open up the exe file. And then what we need to do now is basically take our ISO folder. I had two open, so let me go ahead and back that out. So yeah, take basically all the contents in your ISO folder right now, maybe, and then just drag it right here. And then now basically it should load. If you do get these little errors, you could just go ahead and close it out, that's fine. And now what we need to do is go ahead and go into File, Save Image, and then what we need to do is go ahead and place this to our desktop right here, and then change our file to an ISO. And what we need to do is go ahead and name our file to disk0, or in lowercase disk01, and then go ahead and hit save. Now this process may take a little while since I did put over 1,000 games on it. If you only put like maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, it wouldn't take too long. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and pause the video right here as well, and then once this process is done, you should see a notification that says like the boat has arrived at the port or something like that, and I'll show you in a little second what that looks like. And then once we do that, we're going to basically repackage our PKG file. So I'll meet you guys once this part is done as well. Alright, so as shown here guys, basically my CDGen PS2 ISO process is done, and it did basically compacted my ISO into one folder, or I should say into one disk. And now if we go into basically, or right click over our disk ISO 1, you can see basically the size difference change. So basically I have 8.18 gigabytes into the disk 01 ISO, and even if we click with it via with WinRar and then go to GBA, it will showcase that all of our game data is in this folder. So what we need to do now is go ahead and take our disk 01 ISO. We could just go ahead and write and then just cut it, or just right click and then cut. And now what we need to do is basically go to our PKG dump folder, go to CUSB007, and then from here go to images and then just paste over this one, and then it will probably ask you to replace the file and destination. So that's what we did now. And just to verify once again if that's our file, we can either look here where it says item selected, or basically the file size as well has changed. So what we need to do now, we could go ahead and go back to our root of this folder PKG dump, and then transfer this game out to our US, or basically to our desktop, excuse me. And now what we could do is go ahead, we can put that to the side, and what we need to do now is go into fake PKG file, or package generator 3.38, and now what we need to do is go to Orbis dash, or excuse me, not Orbis dash pubgen, we need to go to gp4.exe, and this basically is going to create a little gp4 file which compacts basically all of the files into one. It's kind of like a .sfk file or a .vg file if you guys mess with Sony Vegas, so it's something like that, or it's very similar to it. But what we need to do now is go ahead and hit generate.gp4, or excuse me, before we do that, go ahead and click this little folder so we could go ahead and find it. So basically our content ID, we need to go ahead and click that. That's why it's very important, and that's why we did a step a little bit earlier, so we could already have that, you know, that step done for this process. So go ahead and hit OK, and then what we want to do now is go ahead and hit generate.gp4, and you should basically see all of your app content. So basically like the service added content, the title ID, the name, SDK version, something like stuff like that, and also the directories. What we need to do now is go ahead and save .gp4 file, and we could go ahead and save this to our desktop, which I'm doing right now, and make sure it has the title ID and it's labeled as .gp4, and just go ahead and hit save, and then you should get this little notification that states that that process was done. Now we can minimize that, and also with fake package tools in the background, what we could go ahead and we need to open is orbis-pub.check right here, or no, excuse me, dash pubgen. This is the one we need, excuse me. Sometimes I get confused because all of these files do look similar to each other. So what we need to do now is go ahead, let me minimize this, and now basically you should get this little thing right here where we need to go to file, go to open, and then from the gp4 file that we just made, what we need to do is go ahead and open that as well. And then from here guys, we could go to build. From here, make sure this is checked, this image package. For our output path, just go ahead and put it to your desktop as I'm doing now, and then you could go ahead and hit build. And now what it should do is basically creating a PKG file with depending on how many games you put on this, it basically will take, you know, either from 30 seconds all the way up to, you know, since I put 1,000, I'm really not too sure. But once that process is done and you have the full PKG file, what we're going to do now is then from there we could go ahead and install it by running HEN on our PlayStation 4. So I'll meet you guys once that process is completed. Alright, so as shown here guys, basically the process has finished right now, so I got the 100%. If you guys get like a little message that said that this process has been finished with some errors, that's fine. what you got to do is go ahead and close this application out, and now if we go here, you basically see your PKG file of choice, and this is basically my 4.34 gigabyte PKG. So make sure if you guys are doing this via with a USB drive, go ahead and format your USB drive that is like on FAT32 to exFAT, and I'll show you guys in a second how to do that. So if I go here into any random folder, or basically my folder with my PKG file, that let me go ahead and make sure y'all can see. If you go over to your USB drive and then right clicking over it, go to properties, make sure that your file system states that it's on exFAT. So if it's not, go ahead and just right click over it, go to format, and then from here where it says file system, if it's on NTFS, go ahead and switch to exFAT. You may have the FAT32 option as well, go just ahead and switch it to exFAT. For allocation unit size, you could keep that to the same as your PC states or default allocation size. And then with your label, basically you could name it anything. I was just trying to text Linux with my PS4, but that's besides the point. And then go ahead and hit quick format as well, make sure that check mark is toggled, and then go ahead and hit start. But before you hit start, make sure to back up all your data, because anytime you do a reformatting of any USB drive or any hard drive, whether it's on a PS4, and anytime, this is usually just a general rule of thumb with computers, make sure you back up your stuff, because 9 times out of 10 it's basically going to erase all your files when it tries to reformat, assuming that your guys are on exFAT and or FAT32. And make sure you have a USB drive as well that's at least 16 gigabytes for this process. You could go ahead and drag and drop your PKG that you just made, and it is drag and drop to your desktop, or not to your desktop, to your USB drive. So as of right here as shown, basically it's going to take 2 minutes for this process. So what I'm going to do now is, once that process is done, I'm going to safely eject my USB flash drive, which I recommend you guys do as well. I'm going to go ahead and boot up my PlayStation 4 and then get that started up as well, so I can show you guys on how to run this process. So meet you guys back onto the PS4. Alright guys, so as shown here, you should be back on your PlayStation 4. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and open up, either if you're using X Project or any exploit host of your choice. In this case, I'm using Azif DNS. I'll have a link in the description below on how to set his exploit up as well. But I'm just going to be going to my user guide that has basically the exploit itself. And then if I go here basically to PlayStation 4 and then go to HEN, this is what you want to do as well too. Go ahead and run HEN, or what is the latest version of right now, I think it's HEN 2.0. And then once that is done, basically go ahead and back out. You should see the little notification on the screen. If I go to my settings real quick, and then from my settings, if I go all the way down to debug settings, and with my USB that is formatted to exFAT with the PKG installed onto it, you should basically see the game. So I know this is basically the Game Boy Advance emulator, since that was the same content ID that we was messing with today. And then what I'm going to do is just go ahead and install it. So this may take a little while since the game is about 4 gigabytes. Once that process has been done, I'll show you guys back on the screen on how it's supposed to look. Alright guys, so as shown here, basically my PKG has successfully been installed, and you should get this little thing on your screen as well, the RetroArch mGBA PS2 application. All you gotta do, since you already have HEN installed, go ahead and run the program, and basically you should see this little intro with the PS2 intro. If you get this little video recording error, just go ahead and click X through that. And now what we want to do is go ahead, and once we get into it, before I even state how to like select through certain options and stuff, what you need to do is go ahead and play a circle instead of X. It's kind of like playing a Japanese game. X is circle, or X is basically declining, circle is accepting. So what we need to go is to load content, go to CDFS, and then from here go to GBA, and you should basically see all your games. So that's all of my games right here. If by holding R1 down, you basically can scroll through games faster as well. I'm just going to be choosing any random game. Let's do, I don't know, this one, virtual tennis. I don't know And then from there, once you get to this part, bro, go ahead and press circle. It may take a little second for the game to load up. It'll be a black screen, but as shown here, this is virtual tennis running at real time using RetroArch, basically like the PS2 version of Game Boy Advance RetroArch. But yeah, essentially this is how you can run any Game Boy Advance game on your modded PlayStation 4. If you guys did enjoy this this content, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for watching.
Of course, I love the llamas. Nice and silky smooth.